It's always a sad day when we see games get banned or developers are forced to censor their titles in order to comply with inconsistent platform regulations. And now we've found out that the developers behind Lisa have altered every version of the upcoming Definitive Edition, and they've heavily edited the version headed to PlayStation consoles. I have a few different things that I want to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media so that you can see when my content is posted, and of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon or a supporter via YouTube memberships. Now, I want to show off the post from the developers directly because they did actually decide to, put out a statement on this and try to get people feeling confident about their product, but unfortunately, I just don't think it's going to work for them. They said, "Hey all, we want to discuss some content changes made to Lisa for the Definitive Edition across different platforms. With Lisa coming to consoles like PlayStation and Nintendo Switch, it's something some of you have asked about. Yeah, we deserve to know. We shouldn't even have to ask because there shouldn't be changes at all whatsoever, but there are. People are worried that based on the game's content, Lisa might be unduly censored in order to comply with the rules of these platforms in a way that harms its humor, world, or artistic integrity. We at Serenity Forge, alongside Dingling, wanted to take the time to talk about these changes and the thinking behind them. The thinking should be that we're not going to censor our games at all for anyone, but that's not happening. It says Lisa contains sensitive content that is designed to move players out of complacency, to put them into a world that's absurd and inappropriate, and to prompt players to confront how they feel in these specific moments. We feel confident in the direction and purpose of Lisa's content, but we also know that certain platforms have regulations we have to follow. There have been two specific changes made to the game. The Salvation Ranger introduction and Junior's flashback have had small alterations made to them, and this is on every platform. So we are talking about every version being changed, having these differences, but they did decide to take the PlayStation version a little bit further. It says, though, whether or not to make these changes was not easy to decide, but ultimately it became an exciting prospect to alter some content in a small way in hopes that it welcomes and includes more players. And this is such a lie. I have said it 100 times, I'll have to say it a million more, but changing your game to please new players or people you hope are going to come to your game will never work, because this game does push the limits, it does push boundaries, it does have content that some people are probably going to ultimately feel kind of uncomfortable with. Those people are not going to check out your game just because you've made a few small, at least what they're claiming, alterations. So you either made major changes and you're lying, or you didn't really change that much and it isn't going to bring new players in. Now, if you don't know what Lisa is, I will show off the Nintendo Switch page and just read to you the general description. As you can see, it says that it undertakes a relentless journey through the post-apocalyptic wasteland of Alathe, but beneath its charming exterior is a world full of disgust and moral desolation, where you will learn what kind of person you are being forced to make choices that permanently affect the gameplay, make sacrifices to keep your party members alive, whether it's taking a beating for them, losing limbs, or some other inhuman torture. In this world, you will learn that being selfish and heartless is the only way to survive. So it is really supposed to, push the mental barriers, right? It's M for mature, it's got blood, violence, use of drugs and alcohol, strong language, sexual themes. So again, if you are trying to make this title appeal to sensitive snowflakes, it's not gonna work. But in a similar vein, they say a few more changes were made on PlayStation only in order to launch the game on that platform. But we're happy to say that none of them affect the meaning and intent of Lisa, but As they've described the changes, that couldn't be further from the truth. It says for the PlayStation version, we've added a notice about the protagonists at the beginning of the game. Additionally, cigarettes have been renamed to cigarette candy, joy is no longer referred to as pills, and alcohol has been renamed to soda. Basically, the changes are not a big deal. We just wanted to make everyone aware of it in advance because we know that Lisa fans will notice it as a difference from the original games. I mean, changing things from cigarettes to cigarette candy and alcohol to be renamed soda is censorship I'd expect from like Saudi Arabia or Australia. This is clearly a game that has heavy themes, so it's aimed towards adults, therefore you shouldn't be taking the adult content out of it. Drugs and alcohol can be powerful elements in storytelling, especially when you're telling the story of a character with psychological problems. To pretend they're not, then change them to candy and soda and say it's no big deal is a slap in the face to fans. It is a giant cope by them. In the case of this company, it is clearly a PR maneuver to sell more copies of the game. Of course they're gonna say it's not important because they don't want to piss off a company like Sony, since that would practically be suicide for the game. To me, this reads that they, first of all, preemptively censored their game because they didn't want to face outrage since every version has content that's dialed back, but with the PlayStation version, it seems that they pushed it even further because they know Sony's content policies are even harsher than Nintendo's, and Sony is also to blame here. If they didn't have these awful, inconsistent, regulations in place, the developers probably wouldn't have changed the game so much, but at the same time, they are the ones who are making the changes and are ultimately complying with these regulations. If they really felt like the integrity of the game was the most important thing, they would have said no to Sony, if they really were the ones to demand more changes, telling us, hey guys, Sony didn't like our content, so you can't get it on PlayStation, but they didn't. They've already bent the knee. They try to say that, oh, the changes aren't a big deal, but if they weren't a big deal, then they wouldn't have needed to be implemented in the first place. These are M-level themes. There's no indication this has anything to do with the ESRB ratings. It was an M for mature before, it still has an M rating. Honestly, I don't see any reason why these things should have been censored. It is sad to see what has happened with this game in totality because you can't go and buy the definitive edition on, Steam or the Switch and get a full version of it. You have to ultimately deal with censorship if you want to buy the definitive edition. It's just a really shitty situation to see in general. If you were looking forward to this and you still want to play it, go ahead, do it. I would definitely recommend staying away from the PlayStation version, though. At least go and buy it on something like the Switch or the Xbox or PC. But unfortunately, every version of this game is now going to be censored, and, the PlayStation version is much worse off. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this and of course found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.